Sunday morning or?
There is no way.
Morning until 7:45.
What do I do?
What do you think?
They should stay by the bell.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what you're all comfortable with. I'd like to kind of wait. I mean, unless everybody has some consensus that they're comfortable staying in the room. You guys have any concern? Well, I'm asking if you're comfortable staying here, we can sit here. I mean, just the one message there. We're the morning.
We're the tornado warning until
warning.
7:45.
Yeah.
So if you want to stay, if you're comfortable staying in the room, or we can go into
Well-
shelter and
Or we'll pause the start of the meeting and we'll go in the other room and we'll wait until it's past after stuff. But if you're gonna stay, I want you to know we're staying in here.
Nothing actually like touchdown or anything. It's just.
there was a touchdown up by Cortland, he said, 8-4-7. But what's that?
I said up to you guys, I mean,
Are
whatever.
you all comfortable staying in here?
Go ahead. You good?
Yep.
Okay, all right. And we'll start and just again. Make sure we're on the lookout. Okay, we're gonna call this Cleveland Public School regular board meeting to order Monday, June 16th, 2025 at 7 p.m. We are called to order and are welcome. First item on the agenda is adoption of the agenda. Any revisions or changes to the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda or adopt the agenda.
Nancy made a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right, community comments. Each board meeting we allow community comments. We ask that each speaker limit themselves to 3 minutes per speaker and no more than 15 minutes per subject topic. Is there any community comments at this time?
I'm returning since I had to leave early from the last meeting. My name is Annie Hiller. I guess you guys are probably lucky tonight because my computer froze up, so I could not print off my letter. Is everybody's phone shut off this time? Thank you. I don't know why you're staring at me like that. Anyway, I do have concerns because I was able to listen to the last meeting. And I don't know why you're not concerned. I sent all of the school board members an email asking to meet with just the board members. I feel that there's a little bit of intimidation maybe going on, and maybe I'm wrong, but I did not hear from anyone. I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised. I'm not upset about it. It's kind of what I anticipated would happen. But after listening to some of the things I heard in that last board meeting, I was shocked. I was heartbroken. I was saddened. It's not the school that I thought this was. I'm on the city council. I wasn't hired by the city. I was elected by the community. You were not hired by the school. You were elected by the community. I guess maybe the things that I heard were saddening because I have grandchildren in this school. I asked my grandson, how do you like your kindergarten teacher? She's rude, Nana. She don't like us. She don't smile. She hates us. That's coming from a 5-year-old. I spoke with Mrs. Elias. After her students learned that she would not be returning, her students wanted to know how to protest. These are 4th graders. That's not the world they should be living in, learning how to protest. I told Jordan, I said, they don't need to protest. Have them write letters to the administration saying what they liked, what they didn't like. Let the students speak for the teacher that they don't want to see go. She had tears in her eyes, a weak little smile, and she said, I will not put my students in that position. I thought that was very mature of her and very bold to still protect her students. After I did not hear back from any of the board members, oh wait, I got to backtrack. After listening to some of the comments that Mrs. Kern brought forward of what Dustin said to Rich about why he's no longer employed, I'm shocked that that is what we want as our representative for our school. Insulting, degrading comments to student athletes. I'm so angry I could punch you in the face. I could have cried hearing those things because my grandchildren are here. If anyone said anything like that to my grandchildren, I'd come unglued, as I would think this would not be good. You wouldn't want them to say that to your children. I would hope you wouldn't want that said to your children. So when I did not hear back from my email, I did what anyone would do. I contacted people at the state. They said, the path that you need to follow is you need to have a meeting with the superintendent. After hearing other comments of refusing to meet with people, how they were treated when they did get a meeting, I knew it was effortless. Don't bother. The next was, then you need to have a meeting with the school board. I said, I've already sent an email. I got nothing. So then they said, then you need to contact BOSA, Board of Superintendent Administration. I'm preparing a letter. I just want to know. That's all I'm asking. I'm not threatening. I'm not being mean. I'm sad. This is a community that I joined 19 years ago. Most of you, some of you know me, and you know that I am that person. I am that mom. I am that Nana that will be the first one to say, what can I help you with? What can I do for you? We are in a farming community. I live in town. I have people that walk past my house and complain about corn stalks, complain about bean dust. They complain. And I said, you know what you need to do? You need to go to a board meeting. You need to go to a city council meeting. If you don't like it, you can find a new zip code. So I'm pretty transparent. But when I hear words toxic, arrogant, disrespectful, that's not what I want for my grandchildren. I don't think it's what should be representing our school. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just piggyback off of that slightly in the fact that my son is now going into the 5th grade with the teacher who her child just described.
Hold on. I don't.
I get your name.
Yeah,
Jenny Cordum,
can you say who that teacher is? Or-
Mrs. Whipperly.
I'm sorry. Sorry, I guess I disagree, I think, with that, so I don't know how to.
Is she not teaching 5th grade? Like I got in the letter that my son is going into her class? Is that true or not? I mean, that's what I got. So my son is supposed to go into the 5th grade with this teacher who's rude and mean and never smiles. Not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Number two, I haven't heard back from any of the school board members when I submitted my complaint to the Department of Education, and I CC'd Mr. Bossart and I CC'd the school board. Nothing. Not one person reached out to me to say, I'm sorry this has happened. We need to work through this issue. Let's work on mediation. Nothing. Zero. Zip zilch. The investigation is underway. You had till today to submit your paperwork, and we'll see how that goes, I guess.
I apologize to both of you that someone didn't respond from our email, at least acknowledging what you sent in.
Yep.
I think with yours, we just felt that it was, you action you need to take, and we can't do anything with that. We need to let the MDE deal with that one. So that was, I think, a misstep that we should have acknowledged, that it's there, that's the process, and that would be the steps. From our
Yeah.
perspective.
It's been very disheartening. I'm an alumni. I'm from this town. I graduated from Cleveland. I also have learning disabilities just like my son does. Nobody's here identifying kids who need help. You're not following the law and child find to identify kids who need special education services. It's against the law what Cleveland is doing with their special education kids. Mr. Singh told me he destroyed Max's 504 evaluation. That's against the law. You have to keep record of those things. You can't destroy an evaluation. The reason he said that is because one was never done. Cleveland's not following any of the recommendations of Section 504 in identifying students who have disabilities and getting them the help and the services that they need. I was one of those students myself who was not identified, did not get the help that I needed. I had parents with money in the bank, which is why I got into college. No help from Cleveland. Mrs. Brown told me I wasn't college material, and I have a master's degree. So what we're doing is we're limiting children's potential by not giving them the accommodations that they need to learn. Our whole society suffers when we don't accommodate kids' learning differences. They're taught that they're stupid, that they're less than, and they don't grow up to meet their full potential, which we all suffer from. I care about this community. I care about kids. I know kids with disability. I came in to this 504 in this, I was driving it. I should have never been driving it. I'm the parent. School should have been driving it, not me. That's all I got.
Joe Kern, parent. I was here last month as a brother. I'm currently just here as a father of 2 kids, one that's currently here and one that'll be here for the next 15 years. And it's part of my profession. It's part of just listening to everybody. I appreciate the comments. I do on both sides. I just want to make sure that you guys are the leaders of the kids moving forward. We can gripe and complain all we want, but it stops with you guys. So I just want to know, not so much to know, I just want you guys to realize that your decisions affect all of us moving forward. Yeah, I'm just disappointed somewhat with some of the comments I hear from people around the county and the city. And like I said, I live in an area where I could actually send my kid to 4 different schools. And I grew up in an area where I thought the biggest schools were the best places to be. And I went to a bigger school and I thought that was the end all be all of like how to get success in life. And like I said, I'm not going to look at the past about what happened with family, with my brother. Obviously, most of you guys know that. I want you guys to do better. I want whatever decisions you make to hopefully turn out right and prove people wrong. But I haven't seen it yet. And I just am frustrated with some of the comments I get going back to the last meeting. You could look at like I said, in my profession, it's my job to take both sides of every argument, take both sides of everything and not be biased. And I can pick that. I think I can be non-biased. So I'm not trying to dwell on that. But what I am looking at is not even the people part of the family that complained about stuff. I look at a student that complained about certain things that are happening. And if my kids are going here and a kid's brave enough to say that, that concerns me. So, you know, maybe some things got overlooked. Maybe some things are being passed on. But like I said, I'm not pointing fingers, but we got to do better. You know, I got 15 years left. I mean, if you haven't known me yet, you'll know me for the next 15 years because I'm committed to making this school the way it was when a lot of you guys went here. But something happened in the last few years that I don't know what's going on. And like I said, you know, you awoke the beast and now I'm going to be a part of it. So I'm encouraging. I want to encourage you. I want to help out where I can if you guys need something. But at the same time, I don't want it to be up here griping every time. So I hope things can change. Once again, going back to a normal profession, I have paid attention to the last few recordings in the last couple of years since COVID. We record certain things here. I'm not trying to wake up a sleeping giant from last meeting, but at the same time, there was things that were said more so from the students that were here and maybe from the family. I obviously want to hear my comments again, but at the same time, there's a couple hundred people that listen to our board meetings every month. And it disturbs me that ironically, that one wasn't working. Fortunately, just like tonight, if I got to be here, I don't know who to present it to, but I have a jump drive of community comments from last board meeting for 30 some minutes. They're not pleasant. They're not great, but if we as a community aren't transparent to the people that can't be here, then we're just in a closed 4-wall room that just talks amongst ourselves. So I'd like to give that to whomever to put it on there. And I'd like to see community comments be posted going forward. And I'm not saying that I get it. I'm not the most techie guy either. And I'm not making accusations that it didn't work because of that, but people approached me after the meeting or days after and wanted to know what was going on. And if we can't talk about what the public talks about, then it's just going to raise too much speculation. So appreciate your time. Like I said, I'm here for years to come and I want it to be great. And I just will do what I can to help you guys out. And I just want to move forward. And yeah, you're going to hear from some people moving forward, but you know, we got to get it back to what it was. And we're not that far off, but we got some improvement to make. So thanks for your time, and I'll pass this off to whoever wants it.
I appreciate that. Thanks. We've used the camera. So third meeting. So
Yep.
yes, it was very unfortunate that it went off last meeting. That's kind of why I have to just look at the screen because yes.
No, and I get it.
We had people on the meeting, the prior one, so it didn't turn off. And we realized it no one's on it. So I think that sure would take take it.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Joe, I'll take, if you're okay with me taking it, I'll take it.
Yeah.
I want to check with MSBA to make sure what the protocols are in that situation. If you get a half meeting, can you post it?
Yeah, it's just all community comments, so it's nothing to do with agenda stuff. So I'm not trying to present that it's a whole meeting that I interpreted just like we're recording now and someone commented before we started that, you know, in case something happens, record it with your phone. So I just, you know, part of the public stuff in my profession, if something turns off at the wrong time, people are going to question it and you got a whole ball of wax to unwind. So I just want to put that forward and hope that it gets posted, shows the best and worst of us, but everybody's got to know what's going on and hopefully move forward in a better aspect. So
Appreciate it, Joe.
thank you.
I wasn't planning to speak, but I'll share a few things too, Michelle. And I did send an email. I haven't received a response back from my last one. I'm not sure if that just means everything is not going to be discussed. But I did hear back from Minnesota Department of Education at Deb Meyer, Mary Weigel, Mary Kopp, and had some discussions about the things that I raised concerns about in my letter to just validate, am I off base? Is this, you know, the information that I'm sharing, is this accurate? And they did confirm mine was. So I would appreciate you taking another look at that and getting back to me. I would be happy to walk through my thoughts on how things went. I'm not looking to cause issues. I value everything that parents do, the community does, the school board does. But I think we are really sideways right now on some things. And I know you guys are getting inundated with concerns, but they're valid. And I hope that you'll take some of these things seriously. I would love to have discussions with you and talk through this and walk through it. But based on the information that they're saying, and I guess others are taking, if you prefer that we go through the state, I guess I'm happy to do that if that's the preference. But if you could let me know in the next week or so, that would be great. Thanks.
We can respond to your follow-up email. We've been going back and forth a little bit, so, yeah.
Okay.
There's
Because
other-
I mean, I have documented everything and I'm sitting at like 50 pages of stuff that tying it to whatever policies, laws, statutes that I think it ties to. Obviously not all of them are valid. I don't have a law degree or anything like that, but there are absolute concerns there. Thanks.
I think I'll address one specific thing. So your point about the slow reaction to your emails from us. So technically as a board, we can't confer with each other all at the same time because of state rules, because that looks like a board meeting.
Sure.
If we all six jump on the same six and us the seven jump on the same call, that's technically a board meeting. So I will admit, us as a board of six, we have talked that we need to work through our procedure of how we respond to these serious events. Because we like to confer with each other to make sure we all have our facts straight with whoever's going to do the responding. We haven't figured out how we do that appropriately yet without doing a this phone call long change of talking to one another to get the facts to respond to whoever's email it is, whether it's anybody's email. So that's one thing I wanted to see, because I wondered if it wasn't up tonight that we have been a little slow at responding to emails, and honestly, that's one, in my opinion, is we do need to work on our procedures internally as a school board on how we respond to these more serious ones to make sure that we're doing it appropriately.
I appreciate the transparency, and honestly, I would prefer you take time and think about it and look into things versus a next day response dismissing. That's what was disheartening. And even just, hey, we got it. We'll meet on next month on the 15th and you'll hear back from us after, I think is totally acceptable. But thank you for being transparent about that.
One thing to piggyback that, going back to transparency, we're not the only school in the state, so I don't know your guys' job, and I won't be the first to say I know it, but all that leads to is guys like myself and her going, I'm gonna call some other school board and see how they do it. So I feel like the answer that you need to get is out there 1,000 times within the state. So, I mean, there's a ton of other schools that do a certain way and that are abiding by it. So get on it, and if you got to piggyback someone else's policies, then it's the best way to be upfront. Otherwise, it just leads to speculation on why things aren't getting done. So the answer's there. It's not something that needs to be talked about amongst the board. It's talking to the other school district, and you'll probably find the answer. So.
Okay, all right, appreciate the involvement and everybody being respectful and, coming. Thanks. I guess we'll continue with the agenda. We have our consent agenda items, got approval of regular board minutes, approval of bills and payments, approval of contracts. Those are the three items in the consent agenda. Items, those were all provided via the link. The prepaid main charges report, new bills, the contractors, Walker Furling, 25.6. Nancy made a motion to approve the consent agenda items. There's a second. Yeah, second. Any discussion on any of those specifically? Okay. Not, we can vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Right, presentations, we have none tonight. Old business. We've got a resolution for non-renewal. There's a resolution, so it'll be a roll call vote, right? This is included in the board packet. Resolution relating to the termination and now renewal of contract for activities director, athletics, community coordination, and site manager. I believe we actually addressed part of this at a prior meeting. But what was not included was the community ed slash site manager portion of the original contract. Therefore, we're putting the resolution forward in its entirety to be approved.
I will make a motion with the resolution of the non-renewal contract.
Made a motion. For a second. Okay, any discussion? Clarifications for the last portion of the title of those to be community ed coordinator and site manager. Right, since it's a resolution, we'll do a roll call vote. So all in favor, say aye. Andy?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Scott? Aye. Brian?
Aye.
Kevin?
Aye.
And Molly is absent. Okay, motion carries. Okay, item 6B, approval of a one-to-one Chromebook plan and fees. I believe we discussed this one at the last meeting too, and actually in the work session, or Tavish had presented actually at the last meeting on the plan. Had a lot of information since then in the meeting about parent tips on, how the plan looks, how the rollout goes, device maintenance plan, and the agreement that'll go with each plan. And this is 7 through 12 is what we're at. Moving towards having a one-to-one Chromebook, so very positive thing. That'll help us kind of transition if we need to electronic educational courses where they're appropriate, where they're best suited. Any other kind of comments on the Tavish presentation at the last meeting? But
I think Tavish did a nice job of putting this together. We had mentioned several times that we're trying to get away from the hard copy textbooks. We get the digital curriculum, put it online. I think that's what's much. Try to level the playing field for all students so they're all using a similar device. Sometimes that takes a burden off the families of having to go purchase someone a device or think that they have to purchase it because something's got to be done online. So, I think Tavish did a great job putting that plan together and moving forward.
I don't think this was asked before, but any thoughts or seen approaches? I feel like most kids have regular internet access, and that's not really necessarily running too much. Or is it mostly used here, and so the majority of what's done can also be done?
I think the majority of it will be used here. Those at home, the chances are they have a phone or a hotspot that they can get to. If not, we can always look into getting some hotspots that we can send out.
Was there another state funding to cover something like that?
We can tie it in with maybe.
Refresh my memory on this from the presentation. How does this impact the budget? Where does it fall, or how does it get spaced out?
It doesn't have minimal impact on the budget because it's replacing the money that's set aside for textbooks and after high school. Set it that way.
Okay. Other questions or comments on what it looks like? I would look for a motion to approve the plan and fees.
I'll make a motion to approve the Chromebook plan and fees.
Just made a motion.
No second is.
Right, seconded. Any other discussion? Is any kind of requirement? I mean, there's no obviously requirement to take the equipment.
No family has to take the Chromebook, although we won't allow outside devices on our network for security reasons, viruses, all that stuff.
Some, so you're saying some would bring their personal computer.
Correct. There are extras in the building that the student could check out and use.
Okay, any other discussion? on that one? How do I need to vote? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, new business items. ARCC contract, which is related to support for Infinite Campus. Is that right?
That's correct.
The proposal we keep annually, right? Or was there multi-year? This one was. Yeah, I think it's an annual contract, yeah. Training, support, right, incident response with issues, right, that kind of stuff, I think. Yeah, I heard positive feedback on it from the campus, and it seems like a great tool for principals, families, and students to be able to actually stay in touch.
It's so much, I mean, all the student view, ownership, all that stuff is easily accessible to everybody.
So this ARCC, are they Infinite Campus or they just support?
I think that it's kind of.
So we have it based on our last couple months of conversations, which you talked about what it's gonna take to get automatic withdrawal. On these speed, like back babies, whatever it is. Things that happen after so long, there's so many things.
See if that's even possible.
That would be fair.
Or somehow find a way to speed that up.
Double different items.
Okay, so the contract is $1,722 for the year. I don't know if it's possible to get out, so often in 2 to 3 years. I don't know if others provide the same service or not. I'm not sure, but as we go, I remember last time they might have did this one. It was more than last year, but.
You're talking student information system?
Well, no, just, I don't know if others service that system as well, or if it's a private thing.
I'm pretty sure this is the one that.
Sure.
And it's
Okay.
so the option of it.
Rubber system, yeah. Okay, all right. I guess, we will look for a motion on approval of this contract.
Make a motion to approve the ARCC contract.
Nancy made a motion,
I'll second.
Kevin is second. One more discussion. Okay, we can vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right, 7.2, 7B, 2025-26 Minnesota State High School League membership resolution. This is an annual resolution that we do to be a part of Minnesota State High School League, which allows for sure all the postseason activities, repping, what else, just what's in the membership fee, any parts of.
Like all that, all your playing orders, all your activities and responsible for high school league, or trap shooting, which isn't. It's off to the high school league, but they can kind of control that. Basically, if you don't become a member of the high school league, you have no opportunity to tournament play playoff. And then technically, you're not allowed to play other high school league sponsored.
Just to give us access to the insurance, right? And talking about, they expanded that prior.
Yeah, they expanded that down to the next grade.
Okay. This one didn't have the fee outlined in it, it's just the membership. Whatever did it have? Everyone's standard there.
I don't think.
Came in a separate, yeah, it'll be a separate.
Each school is different. Based on your activities and what you're doing.
Which I think we get from several, later time. I'll show that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the high school league membership resolution.
Okay. Randy made a motion, Kevin second. This is not a formal board resolution. Are you just going to need roll call? No, it says it would, okay, all right, okay, yeah, we'll do it, just be. You safe? Yep, okay, so we'll need discussion. Right, seeing none, we can do roll call vote. Andy? Aye. Nancy? Aye. Scott? Aye. Brian? Aye. Kevin? Aye. Okay, 7.7C, approval of preliminary 2025-2026 budget. Have that in online, on your board book. We do have to have a release the preliminary budget approved by the end of the fiscal year, which is the end of June, so it's not needing to approve a preliminary budget. But as we've done in prior years, they can bring it back and be amended afterwards. So any general comments about starting point and where we're at with it?
You know, these numbers can look deceiving at times. Part of that is still working on getting everything into the formula out there. So we're taking what they have posted at this point and putting those numbers in. For your general fund, which is kind of your savings account, that is appearing very well here. We can take a closer look at food service where we're taking a big hit in that fund. However, that's not unusual in most districts to fluctuate with their food service. They did add supervision and custodial money taken out of food service to pay for those. If it's not taken out of there, it's taken out of the general fund. So we'll be doing some adjusting there. And simply the main reason for the negative is things are a lot more expensive and you're not getting the reimbursement. That's needed to offset that. And clearly, student activity fees, those are much better than what they were last year. And then another deceiving point here is building construction. I kind of have to zero that out every year, which means you don't necessarily spend that way, but it has to look like you spent the money, and we will eventually. But that kind of offsets your overall dollar amount there. That looks more negative than what it really should be.
Yeah, because I would separate it into operating on the top four lines, right? Which is close to break even, and then you've got building construction, which potentially reflect the revenue on the prior year too, and now you're spending it.
When Brian presented it in the past, I think it was just the top four. The auditors said we got deemed by the auditors saying we need to present the last two also.
So that Fund 6 building construction, just to clarify for myself and whoever else, that building construction is not paying down the building that we built.
No,
That's
money left over from that fund.
okay. That's what I thought it was. I just wanted to clarify.
We'll spend some of that this summer doing a couple projects that need to be done around the building, and that'll dwindle in there too. So.
There was some discussion about food service and the legislative update. So I know you talked about reallocating costs to food service, which would sound like you said was included here. I mean, legislative changes on food service so this is the biggest discrepancy on here. Is that something we make up through like charging fees for lunch, or do we have any guidance on what the state's covering versus how we're supposed to approach?
We'll have to take a look at what we're charging for second lunch and second breakfast and so forth. All your free and reduced, or your free breakfast, free lunch, state's picking up. I don't think they're picking up all of it, they're picking up a grand portion of it. The reimbursement that we do get from the state was like 12.5 cents Now we're cutting it down to 6 cents per pupil, which we can take to the math, pretty much a lot of reimbursement. And we still have to meet the federal guidelines of portion and so forth. And we don't get to set the price on what we're paying for the commodities and so forth. So it's a, like I said, you look at pretty much any district. Some districts will create a la carte, something, outside of the main meal that kids can buy and make money off of that. Go to the bigger schools and they have a McDonald's or a Pizza Hut, right in their cafeteria. I don't think we're in that neighborhood, so, we'll sit with Monica and see what we can do.
Can we, so if our lunch is, hey, for easy numbers, $5, and they reimburse us 4, can we charge that extra dollar to break even on that lunch?
We can charge any amount that we.
On that first one,
On the first one, no, we can't charge anything.
we can't charge anything on that first, even though, even just to break even.
The first lunch and the first breakfast are free. If they choose to have second lunch or
Right.
second breakfast, we can.
That was
charge them
essentially
for
what we
that.
want.
Now, in my, superintendent's report, I'll, talk a little bit more about some of the better form.
Okay, so, preliminary budget in front of us. That operating fund shows $3,900, positive, which is, I guess I would characterize as a break even. And then when you include the building construction and debt redemption, total budget shows a $310,000 loss. And those funds separate from an accounting perspective to track those things. Okay, obviously we've made a lot of changes over the past year. A lot of them I felt like they've hurt. To try to get us to a break-even budget. I know we've got a resolution on the agenda. In the next item about operating referendum. Yeah, there's still a lot happening, a lot of things that are unknown, so I think that's kind of a backdrop for how we got to where we're at and what we see going forward.
It's tough to see the changes that we made, like results in a break even, but yeah, we also kind of knew that going into it.
And keep in mind that we've already inserted a percentage of increases in all the staff salaries. We don't know where that's gonna fall, so we hopefully went to the high side rather than underestimate that, so that's all factored in here too.
Right, so depending on how that goes, we won't be.
And we had to pay out some severance packages to a few employees that mitigates some of the company.
Along those lines, if anybody has any plan what we're trimming on this fiscal year. At this point, I know the audit's not for a handful of months yet, but just feel for where we're going trending to.
We're probably about break even.
Okay.
On the operating stuff at least.
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, we can discuss budget that we have quarterly, I think it'll be gone, so we would look for a motion to approve a preliminary budget, so everyone probably gotta have it by the end of the month, so we'll look for a motion to approve preliminary budget today, so we have it approved and then. I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary budget of 25-26. Motion. There's something. I'll second. More discussion. Right, seeing none, we can vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, 7D, Anders Food Service Contract. I worked through updating this. What I have here is for the summer, 2025. And we got pretty recently on it. I guess any updates since that meeting and what the future looks like is this one.
So we have, negotiations next with Anders, and our recommendation is to bump it to 375. We decided that September 1st, we'll bump it to 375, and over the summer we'll go at 345. 345. Kind of allows for a little cushion and time to absorb the dramatic increase. Even with that increase, we're still below recommended price point of that contract. Monica has indicated that the 375 is a break even.
That was the number that you're shooting for.
That's not explained.
Okay. All right, Tony, so our question again, I'll hand over the negotiations today, so I appreciate you guys working.
It was a constructive conversation. I feel like, we probably will look at revisiting that sometime halfway through the fiscal year for the future. Saying, here's what things are trending, maybe costs go down, maybe unlikely, but we can start having those conversations and we look at the extra note.
Yeah. Probably gives adequate time up to point. It's probably a better, so you anticipate approving a separate contract for like,
Yes.
September through the end of the fiscal year, or the end of the summer?
It should go till the end of the school. And then we'll take,
26, and then align it with the fiscal year.
then we'll take another look.
I think that makes sense.
I'll make a motion to accept the June, July, August kind food service contract.
Okay, Nathan made a motion.
I'll second it.
Brian is seconded. Any more discussion? All right, seeing none, make the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 7E, resolution. This is the one I mentioned earlier, proposed increase in operating reference. Well, I guess we did the question last year. I guess we do a little history. Had meetings, failed the question, but part of what we've done over the last 3 or 4 months was the community survey, and we got the results that were represented 2 meetings ago, I think, or 2 meetings ago. With basically, I think it was 80% plus, said don't increase what you asked for, but don't decrease what you asked for, ask again and do more. Figure that characterized kind of really
The bulk of it.
So I guess what you have in front of you today is the resolution to do that. We can read it officially, but there is a deadline to doing this, which like you said is within between 70 and 80 days before the election to actually have the question approved, so it can get on the ballot. We've done quite a bit of work in reviewing that survey and feedback. But once we approve, we should also get together with the finance committee. I think managed kind of the question last time and helps connect with the community about the question. We got to start that back up as soon as we can after these vote to continue or ask for it. So that being said, maybe I'll read the questions. Resolution relating to increasing the general education revenue of the school district and calling an election thereon. Without question reads, I believe very similar to last time. The School Board of Independent School District 291, Cleveland Public School, has proposed to increase its general education revenue by $750 per pupil Proposed referendum revenue authorization would be applicable for 10 years, beginning with taxes payable in 2026. And increase each year at a rate of inflation, beginning with taxes payable in 2027, unless otherwise revoked or reduced as provided by law. To vote to syllable circles, yes, shall increase the revenue proposed by the school board of a principal one, be approved, or no. And then below that, like we talked about past, there's the whole text of by voting yes on the ballot question, you are voting for property tax increase.
Just like to note that there is a typo in here that I will have, our employers fix. We have district number 194 in my gas question.
I fixed it and I read it appropriately, so, yeah.
It's understanding that it's a change from what.
So that will be changed.
I'll send it back to them.
I forget, how does that compare to our last question?
It's
Real similar.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're pretty limited on what you can put for questions and they make it confusing, but that's lawyers and that's legislation and all that fun stuff, but, bottom line is, I know the community, there was members that wanted more clarification on who their taxes raise each year based on enrollment numbers and so forth. Yes, it fluctuates with the enrollment numbers. So if you have 600 kids, that's what you're getting, based on per pupil. And then next year you have 580, you're gonna lose one. Next year you jump up to 620, you gain some. So, and that's out of our control. But it is based on enrollment.
Other questions or comments about process? What's next? No, I mean, we'll have A-letters, right, they provided materials in the past saying this amount of money per pupil equates to X number of dollars for the district. It changes based on property values and all that, so they would update that, I'm assuming.
They use the old numbers in the survey because obviously they don't have the new tax numbers but they'll get that after they get this resolution and
Okay. Comments, questions, motion to move forward?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution. The question is stated.
Brian's made a motion.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? Right, seeing none, we can do a roll call vote. For the resolution relating to increasing the general education revenue of the school district and calling an election thereof. Andy. Nancy.
Hi, I'm second, though, I said it.
Scott. Aye. Brian.
Aye.
Kevin. Aye. Motion passes. Do we? Sure, but do we also maybe want to take a minute to establish a finance committee meeting, or at least the general timeline of within the next 30 days, the committee can have some time to get together? Is that sound reasonable?
Probably it was.
We do have a July work session, right? Let's make sure that's on the agenda, so these. Okay,
you want to wait for that meeting? Have a date for the next meeting, or?
You guys want to do it before that? It's probably.
Going.
whatever's convenient for.
Yeah, we'll sort it out.
Okay, 7F, 2025, 2026 activity fees. Looking at proposed increases. The sheet is in the packet as well. I think over the last couple of years with the financial picture, we've tried to at least bring these back to a point where it's, I would say, in line with other districts our size as well. It's not fun or easy thing to do. But again, the activity budget is getting closer to break even. I think the goal we were striving for, kind of from all angles and things that go into that budget. Specifically that you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, there's a couple items on here. Trap team fee has not been set. I called the trap team coaches to get their input on it. That's kind of a unique entity in itself. He was going to talk to the rest of the coaches and other coaches at the state meet. He hasn't gotten back to me on that. Yes. Correct. And I called him on the day of the state meet, so I'm sure it was kind of slipped his mind, but so I'll get that shored up. Driver's ed classroom behind the wheel do not want any increase. We're over, according to those individuals, we're charging more than what we're charging the private schools in order to try to drag the schools to scale. So they wanted to be alone. He said they had a lot less kids this year sign up. I think Mr. Atherton said he pretty much drove through June and July, and this summer he's gone pretty much at the end of July. Well,
Do you think that's a function of cost or?
it could be. It
Class size.
could be both. $100 difference with going in that's what he said. I haven't seen the numbers or anything, and I'm not sure why that one got brought up last year when we increased the number. They signed off on.
Yeah, I thought
it.
so.
We talked about it, yes. So, and then, the family max. Where do you want to turn this to family max? If you recall, last year we decided we wanted to double the activity fee cost for almost all activities. And we decided to go on a forward increase in 25%. So I guess we want to be at the family max. Right. Last year was at 500. If you go 25%, and then you're looking at 620. Is that too much? Is that not enough?
Steve, so there's lots of kids. I think it should increase. I mean, it is what it is.
So what would, once we get to that, what would the max be once we get to the max increases that we're planning on? Are we looking at an hour max?
You're looking at 800. Would be double what it was in 23, 24.
Okay. So that's our goal. So I would say it needs to go up so that we're closer to that.
I would say $100 if,
Go up by 25%.
Yeah, if I'm on track with that. And
I think yes, it's probably where we're maybe leaking or losing money in that account, and a lot of the family max towards.
right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So that would be okay getting rid of.
25% would be another 100 based off of 23.
Yes. Yeah.
Increase to 600.
Yeah, I think people, we've talked about it, the context of budget too. It's like, in that survey, people said, try to increase activity fees to start. I mean, that's not really popular, but, it's a place that we can ask for a little more, and, it's a elective or it's a choice to do.
It's what we do. Okay. I'm almost excited for all the increases.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve the 2026 activity fee.
you want to move,
And then, caveat, give me leeway on the track.
Yeah.
Accept that
With
after.
the caveat to change track fees.
but also including pushing Family Max to 600, and that's just a 500 in here.
Yeah. Just over, yeah.
Right? Okay, you heard the motion, is there a second? All right, a second, any more discussion? All right, so now we can vote, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Scott, if I can put this in perspective. The preliminary budget last year had revenue for student activity fund at 65,000. The reality of it was 105,000. So,
That was with some changes though to activity fees, stat fees.
Yeah.
Everything that was included in there, right?
although expenditures were also quite high.
Mhm.
Okay.
And that will be.
Yes.
Okay. That puts us to item 8, items for information, discussion. Board member reports.
I just had my MVED meeting tonight. Dr. John Graff, who is now the new superintendent of St. Peter Schools, is our supervising superintendent for MVED. We met him tonight. He's technically doesn't start for another 4.5 days, according to Dr. Olson. He's coming down to his third retirement of his career, I think. Says it's going to be his final, but we'll see. Budget is, we went over our budget as well. With the remodel, our fund balance is down to 145,000, which is 2%, which for an education district is acceptable. We don't want to go much lower than that. But so far we're sitting good on that fund balance. Speaking of the remodel, it came in under budget and it will be done ahead of schedule. So it's in the contract that it needs to be done by August 7th, which is 3 weeks earlier than what was planned. It's supposed to be like 3 days before school started. The Burger Flooring and Interiors out of St. Peter came in and took $25,000 off of their flooring bid, which obviously brought the costs down under budget. So that was very nice. Our state auditing monitoring, our district did not get the in-depth monitoring, which is good. So they are just randomly pulling, picking students from each district and assessing the progress reports, making sure that progress is being reported and done at a timely manner. Our assistant director took a job with Minnesota Department of Education, so we are now looking for another assistant director. She was also, she was the MVED principal and assistant director. So Allison,
No, she was,
yeah,
she was there, yeah.
Yep. She was she
She's kind of new, wasn't she?
newer to the position, but she's been in MVED, yeah. So she took a job at Minnesota Department of Education, more in her goals of her career. So her last day is on June 30th. Our assistant principal is now moved to a principal position. We're looking for somebody to fill in the assistant principal. Dr. Olson talked about the other legislative changes in wording and really reiterated to watch the fine print on all that stuff. Like sped education, transportation is down 5%, and just there's unique things in the bills. And as he's been reading them, he's just noticed a couple things that have stuck out. So This one thing is dyslexia screening is now required K through 4, which has not been the requirement as far as previously. So it's all stuff up. And then there's certain requirements as far as how that needs to be handled as well. But, yeah. I think that was it. So, once the building is done, we'll do another board walkthrough and see the changes.
Yeah.
Negotiations, we ended in May. We got most of the wording languages fixed and agreed upon. And now, once school starts back, we will do work on salaries and benefits, things like that.
Okay. I know other committees are a little bit light at the beginning of the summer, so I don't know if anybody else is now. Are you doing? You guys help with something right now on the preschool playground down there? I don't know if that's in your report or not, Dustin, but Facilities and Grounds had that, had the preschool playground that they had purchased last fall or winter, I guess it was, after having a number of bids come in, so I think it's up and pretty well functional, or gonna be functional in Singleton.
Might as well clean up a lot of it while you're getting it. Sometimes it'll dry up. Yeah.
We'll have to decide if you want to send something. You know, be an additional cost too.
I think you're the only one, like the committee that met with Anders. Have you guys reset up a meeting to go over different ideas on that stuff, that previous meeting that you had it for?
You know, and we have, you know.
Haven't decided an official meeting yet, but
That was discussed, because I know at one point it was, that meeting ended that way.
yeah, we do need to probably re-engage that as we go. We haven't met, so I don't think that's a big topic since then either, but we can maybe, between the three of us that were there, we can chat about dates and next steps, yeah.
If we could do that before the July work session. Give us direction on.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Speaking of that, one more thing, did everybody get the email from Anders on their birthday party?
I did. Yeah, Wednesday.
Yes. Like anything in the community, if we get something in the community, I think it's nice if we can
Yeah, sure. That's
support. We like getting those things from the community.
Anybody else? Otherwise, we can jump to principals report.
So just winding down the year and starting up the next, so just kind of can be short and sweet. Right now, we got credit recovery. Mr. Dietrich has 14 kids. He started last week and he's gonna end this Friday, 40-hour weeks for the kids. So it's intense and they're getting through it. Targeted services for elementary. Looks a little different this year. We're gonna have it July 14th through 17th, July 21st through 25th, August 11th through 14th, and August 18th through 21st. And just working on things for next couple months. Proposed handbook changes, e-learning, schedule changes. We took some things from Meet and Confer and put the kids, the littles first. So things like that is what we're working on. It's time consuming, but it's actually kind of fun to put those together. That's about all I have.
Thanks.
Maybe a question for Scott. So how did the year end up from a behavioral referral standpoint based on what we kind of put forth at the end of the previous year for, you only get X amount of these and then this.
Yeah,
happens. How are you feeling? How's that look?
I'll just say we had kids that we asked kids here about 2 months ago, and they said it's great. I will back that up. It's, when you walk around the hallways, their kids are well behaved. They're where they're supposed to be. Next year, we're actually gonna open up, get all the kids go down to the nurse's office, stop vaping and so on. We're over one, bathroom because of that, but definitely, I saw a lot of change for the good, if that makes sense.
I can't remember, when do we do like, when do we do updates to that kind of policy? Is that on next? Okay.
Yeah, that's I have right in there. Next 2 months, we'll start kind of giving you a next month work session probably. Sure. And be able to vote on it.
Anything major that you're seeing coming down, or?
No, not too much. We're talking 7th and 8th grade, this, a retention policy, because we just keep passing kids when they're not doing great. So we're gonna talk about that next time. Another thing that you might hear is budget. We have to look at some of our supplementary programs. Like today, I just looked at, I don't know, $25,000 worth of supplementary programs. So how do you mainstream that and make it more feasible? So I don't know anything else on that, Dustin. I know I've been helping you with that stuff.
I think part of it is a little price gouging by some companies because they know that with the READ Act, you have to do certain things. So those companies have been approved and all of a sudden their prices go up a little bit. We spent 100,000 on your READ curriculum and then I'm spending another 25,000 on supplementary, which we're gonna have to make decisions. I mean, you just can't continue doing it. They're good programs and they're helpful for the kids. But you've seen a lot of like an accelerated reader. The kids are reading the books and then going online and doing that. It isn't a real discussion happening about the book. You know, even sitting across from another student having a discussion rather than doing it on the computer type thing. So we're just gonna have to look down, look at those items, see where our priorities are up there.
And are we utilizing the programs that we bought, their technology components? That's gonna be the big thing. We still want the teachers to have things, but we gotta make sure we're not double dipping their paying twice.
Any questions? Okay, we don't have Nick for a transportation director's report, so I think we'll support that. Yep, the superintendent's report.
Yeah, I'm just gonna piggyback on some of the things that Nancy was saying from legislation. Compensatory aid has been corrected for, this time around. Have they not, compensatory aid is your free and reduced forms that families used to fill out. They've gone to a direct certification, and what they saw with that, and if they would have kept it the same, our district would have lost $68,000, which we can't afford to lose 68. There's districts out there that were losing $1 million. So they appropriated 55 million. Basically, you're going to get whichever is greater, your 24 numbers or your 26 numbers. And you're going to try to bring back the paper form and have direct and see how that works. They've created a task force to look at what to do with that component and what comes out of that. I would be willing to bet we're not getting $68,000 the next time around. That it's going to be lower than that. But who knows? We'll see what they come up with. The Ribbon Commission was set up for special ed. Basically, they have decided in not these next 2 years, but starting in 27 and 28 school year, they're going to cut $250 million out of special ed.
27, 28.
I believe that was it.
How much was that?
250 total. So, 28, 29.
2029, yeah.
Yeah, 28, 29. And they're gonna try to do 125 and 28, 29, and another 125, 29, 30. And basically what this is gonna amount to, all the increases that they've done in cross subsidy to help offset the cost of special ed, is probably gonna go away, and we may go backwards from where we were when we first started. So that is very concerning, not only for us, but every school in the district, in the state. But that's what that commission is designed for. They have cut special ed transportation from 100% reimbursement back to 95%. You throw that in there, that's not a good outlook for special education. Which means it's gonna fall back into our general fund and we have to backfill all those costs. We don't have the money to do that. Most schools won't have the money. READ Act is still kicking around there. For us, it's our 2 high school staff members. English department that will be trained this year. We're ahead of the curve. Our special ed departments did this year. So, a nice thing is long-term facilities, maintenance revenue, we can now do large work projects within that category of 100,000 or more, and fall into that category instead of having to take it out of your general fund. So that will help tremendously down the road.
Do we have to, for some reason, wait to start our project until?
It kicks in 2027, I believe. So you plan it for 26 and then 27, I believe.
So we've got a smaller project now,
Yeah,
our
that-
future big project
yeah.
will.
Yeah, the project we're working on now would not.
There's areas you can't really do it, so fine, yeah. But the more major replacement that we're looking at the next 5 years.
Yes, that'll fall under this.
Yeah.
I have Garland coming in they created a plan for us. They're coming in tomorrow, take some core samples throughout the building and see what state all those roofs are in. They're starting the small gym or elementary gym roof tomorrow. Fixing that issue. And then they'll come back and sit down and have a discussion about a plan to put together for long-term facility. And then we'll work with IEA, with Shannon, who usually sits down and helps us with that. Student support personal aid. They're reducing that amount. Typically, we get about 40,000. MVED gets about 40,000 that we can kick in. We're going to reduce that a little bit. Basically, we use that funding to pay half of Shauna's salary. MVED, we haven't used all the MVED money because it's so strictly tied to certain things, and we have nothing that we can use it on. We're exploring on some ideas of how to do that. Otherwise, we can go over the service co-op, Socrates, and South Central Service Co-op, which I would prefer to keep it within our district and utilize it for our kids. So, like I said, school meals, the reimbursement is reduced from 12.5 cents to 6 cents. Let's see. Starting in 26, 27, 27, 28, we have permission to start before Labor Day on September 1st. The reason being is Labor Day falls real late. So I think Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are the first, second, third, and fourth in 2026. So you can start after Labor Day, but you lose that entire week and then you can push it back into further into June. Right? Kids and families kind of like that in the May first part of June to get out. And then there's 3 days and 27 before Labor Day That would be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 1, 2, and 3. So. We'll have to have that discussion at the, look at the calendar and what people want. You can also go, still give that Friday off for Labor Day weekend, and you still have the, it's good, whatever, however, I haven't played around with the calendar yet, so we'll see how that plays out.
Did they say how early we could start, or was it?
Yes, no, September 1st, that's year.
That is the earliest.
And then the final one is, we'll have to create by 26, 27 a cardiac emergency rescue plan or response plan. The state will have a template for us to follow and so forth. Basically, it's something that, as a head football coach, I had to do is create those plans for practices and games. It's finally getting into the schools and makes sense that you take care of, you have that plan, kids are in the building, not just for activities. And I think that is it for me.
Right, so our next work session is Tuesday, July 8th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Board meeting Monday, July 21st at 7 p.m. Look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. I'll second. Have a second, I'll say aye. Aye. Okay.